is called to order if you stand.
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, nation under God, indivisible, with liberty.
Mr. Burkhart? Mrs. Cooper?
Here.
Mr. Kroll? Dr. Getachew?
Here.
Dr. Green?
Here.
Mr. Reichard?
Here.
Mr. Huron?
Here.
Mr. Vognetz?
Here.
Mr. Clauser?
Here. Okay, the board will take action to approve meeting minutes, from 6:30 to 6:43. We had an executive session to discuss personnel, property, contract language, and negotiations, an informational session, and counsel regarding conflicts of interest. Does that make sense? Did I say that right? Okay. Board would like to take action to approve meeting minutes from February 14th, 2022. Board meeting as presented. All those in favor?
Right,
Aye.
you have to get
Oh, you
motions.
have to, yes, yes.
You have to have a motion for that.
You have to have motions.
A motion.
I second.
Sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, John. All those opposed?
I will abstain for the same reasons.
Motion passed. Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the February 22nd meeting, the special board meeting as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed?
Me as well.
Motion passes. Okay, reports. We have anything from the Finance Committee?
Yes, we had our monthly financial committee meeting at today between 5 and 6 o'clock. A few of the topics we discussed was a counterfeit check that was presented to the bank and then to withdraw some money from our account. No harm happened, but that took a lot of the administrative time to sort out things, and since then the process had to be slowed down to make sure there's nothing, no financial impact happens if a repeat event happens. We would also discuss about the construction budget and the budget for a year of 22-23. We discussed about the preliminary budget draft. And we also talked about staffing. The board will, at least the committee is considering adding a music teacher to what's existing now, as we believe the present teachers are pretty stretched out. And also we consider adding a school psychologist. These are things that we'll discuss further and also present to the board approval sometime in the future. Thank you.
And just when you thought you were done, Mr. Getachew, Curriculum Committee?
Yes, curriculum committee meeting was March 2nd between 5:30 and about 7 o'clock. We had good public attendance, and also we discussed quite a bit of things. I advise people to, for any committee meeting, we have the schedule out there, And also I invite them to come to the committees of their interest and attend and also give us an input. And the results of the schedule as well as, or the agenda as well as the discussion will be posted on the district's website. But on this day, on March 2nd, we discussed about curriculums. Dr. Birkhardt discussed the steps needed to complete the district's comprehensive planning. This is a pretty extensive issue, so I'm not going to delve into the details. And also how to analyze data. There were also quite a few details in there. And also Liberty Valley planning calendars, and we discussed about the curriculum and all that stuff. And also, we discussed about textbooks that we want to use for the Liberty Valley, and I think that's in the agenda today.
For ELA it is, yes.
Yes, ELA, excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Clausen.
Okay. Mr. Riker, do you have anything for building and grounds?
No, I couldn't attend the meeting due to other circumstances, but I did hear a little bit that there were a few quotes put in for the MSite work around the school. 3 different people put some quotes in for bids.
Actually, they aren't actual quotes. It was suggested prices to
Okay.
be considered for the bid, or for the budget, and we didn't have any board members there, so there was no official meeting taking place.
EITC?
I attended the last meeting. They had to have an emergency meeting due to a resignation in the office. There will be a position available. I believe it's already posted for an administrative assistant with fiscal responsibilities. So if you know of anyone who just graduated and is looking for a job, please contact the EIT office here in Danville downtown. And then we just approved bills and disbursements, tax disbursements.
And for the VOTEC, we actually have those folks here tonight that are going to be giving a presentation. Superintendent's report?
All right, thank you. The first part of my superintendent's report is always the enrollment. Mr. Ryan, thank you. We actually had a decrease of students across the entire district this between February and March. It's pretty significant, about 19 students less in the district, which surprised me. But our outside cyber increased as of 2, and our inside cyber, our Ironman Cyber Accounting, increased to 5 students. So there's a lot of movement going on right now with families in the district. At the high school, we have some really neat stuff happening. The girls swimming and diving team are the 2022 district champions. Brianna Ross, Koila Bartholomew, and Hannah Bartholomew all are moving on to the state meets with their scores and with their what they do in the swimming teams. The girls also won all 3 relays with these girls, and all will go on to state. So we've got a great representation of 6 students in the swim team that will be representing Danville at states. And the other is the Honors Band Festival at Susquehanna University. We were represented by Brian Myers, Gage Hayes, Mary Holmes, and Brenna Ross. There's also a few alums in that picture as well, but we're really proud of their showing and how well the students are doing in these extracurricular activities. The announcements from that particular school have to do with, back it up, have to do with the FFA Leadership Conferences coming up. It's actually just started. We have Makeup Day for the district is on Friday, so we are open. FFA on Friday have public speaking rounds at Benton. On the Monday, the 21st, there's no school. There's going to be a school day SAT on the 23rd, so there's some adjustment to schedules that particular day. And chorus is coming up, as well as the last day of marking period is the 25th. The middle school, the students were raising money by accepting donations from the faculty for a hot chocolate stand and other activities, and the donation goes to the Good Samaritan Youth Bed Program. So we also have the 6th graders are doing recycling through the middle school. At the high school, we have the Planet Club that does it, while at the middle school, they've created their own little recycling group, so we're very proud of them with that. The enrichment classes in 6th grade have been added again. This time, their mission was to make a senior smile. So they planned a grade level fundraiser over lunch last week and raised enough money to purchase a small Valentine's treats and candies for the residents of Grandview Nursing Home. 40 residents received a handmade Valentine card, coloring sheet, goodie bag, all at the courtesy of our Danville Middle School students. Again, we're really proud of these students who are community-minded and doing things for their community unselfishly. The drama club at the middle school has been practicing for their spring play. It's The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and performances are May 5th and 6th, so we hope that you can join us. Liberty Valley has the Connect STEM Club. I mentioned the groups in our building that had won. Now these are the groups that will be going to the CSIU for judging. So we have three different groups here, and they do design journal, prototype video, and a digital blueprint for each of their projects. And if you can get a look at those projects, there's some pretty unique things there. So I'll be asking Mr. Ryan to put the videos for those on the website for people to enjoy. The other, where you see that blue mat, it's called the 24 tournament. I don't know if anybody else has ever played 24, but what it is, it's math, where you have to add up to 24 when you do all these things. And it's a contest that they're having that started today. They're doing it like a March Madness with brackets with the top 12 students from each grade. And it'll go down to the top 2 students, of course, in the school. So that's some fun stuff with that. And the last one, the stock market had concluded week 4 last week. The game is a 10-week. I talked about that last time as well. It's 10 weeks, and the end is April 22nd. So we have students in the elementary division and students in the middle school division. So they're all doing fairly well. Our front runners are the middle school, Torin Ryer, and the elementary game, we have Jeremy Collins, Jacob Bulbin, and Bradley Cummings are the top people right now in our district. So these are learning how to use the stock market to gain money. So they're doing great. Primary school, Mrs. Haas's class created a restaurant in her classroom. The students became chefs and participated in a lot of activities. Mrs. Zosh also had, and a couple other teachers at the 2nd grade level, had students on a Healthy Heart Day. We want to thank Dr. Green for joining us on that day to show the kids a real steer heart. It was pretty exciting for them and for the teachers for that matter. So they got to wear their medical garb, and they really were excited about everything they got to do. They do a variety, so it was a pretty exciting time. And the other pictures you see on the stair are our athletes, our young athletes at the primary building, who are remembering another student who had passed away from an accident, who was also an athlete. The student went to a different district, but I'm proud of our kids to reach out and acknowledge that someone in their age group that had some special remembrance. So that was pretty cool of them as well. Head Start, they have Mrs. Mary Knosh as the artist in residency, and the kids are moving and grooving, and by the end of the time that Miss Mary is there, they'll have made their own personalized drum to take home. I am sure the parents cannot wait for that. So the 2 days that everybody needs to remember right now is March 18th, Friday, is a snow makeup day. Students are in school. And March 21st is still a break day or a vacation day for students. Thanks. Have a nice week.
Okay, I'd like to open it up for public comment for agenda items. Yes, please. Could you state your name and address, please?
Christine Gordon, 350 Jackson Road. My comment is regarding agenda item 14.1, school times and transportation needs. In January 2020, the board voted unanimously to reduce the time of the school day, since prior to that, our day was longer than the other districts in the CSIU. At the October 26th meeting last year, Director of the Department of Child Neurology and Sleep Medicine at Geisinger, Dr. Anne Marie Morse, presented a program called Wake Up and Learn. She explained that lack of required sleep in children can cause deterioration in school performance, symptoms that can mimic ADHD, and risk-taking behaviors including self-harm and substance abuse. The Wake Up and Learn program works to identify students who may have sleep disorders and connect them with the help that they need, and the board unanimously approved the implementation of the program. Both of these two things were obvious moves in the right direction for students. It was mentioned at a recent meeting that several bus drivers would be retiring and that finding replacements was proving difficult. This topic sparked speculation and community discussion that bus run changes could impact schedules, resulting potentially in the school day starting earlier. It is frustrating that such changes could result in a negative impact to our students due to a possible lack of a logistical solution after much progress has been made to implement best practices for readiness to learn. I contacted Dr. Boyle and asked if the school district accounted for parent drop-off and pickup lines that include students whose buses drive by their homes because they're required to. She suggested an opt-out program which would reconfigure the routes with the addresses of, without the addresses of families who opt out. I would support this as we know that bus stops still exist on routes where students are not being picked up by the buses. The other concern that was addressed by the alignment of school times with the other districts was the safety concern and remedied the previous problem of children arriving and being unsupervised due to staff contract hours. So I would ask that you avoid adding a bus run that would reinstitute the previous unsupervised periods of waiting for arrivals. I would like to ask that the district and the board consider other creative solutions in addition to the opt-out process to the transportation issue in the event that enough drivers aren't hired, rather than negatively impacting appropriate school times. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Okay, at this time, I'd like to invite Mr. Lilo and Mr. Kreider up for the presentation for VOTEC.
Here so everybody can see the. So my name's Tony Lilo. I'm the business manager at Columbia Montalvo Tech, and I'm just going to give you a short presentation regarding our budget for next school year and then answer any of your questions. Jeff, if you could. So our projected budget for next school year, as you can see, is $10,176,000. That's a 3.86% increase over this year's budget. And the 3.86, as you can see, what makes that up are primarily salaries, payroll taxes, retirement, and a little bit of transportation increase. Okay, Jeff. So what everybody is concerned with in here, I'm sure, is what is Danville going to owe next year if this budget is approved. So the total contributions from the 6 districts will be $7,433,000. That's a 3.5% increase over the current year. Danville's portion of that total, $7.4 million, is 21.65%. Does anybody here want me to explain how that percentage is arrived upon? I know a lot of you have been here in the past, maybe some of you haven't. Would anybody like me to go into that?
I have some idea, but I think for the public, it would be good to explain that.
So the Articles of Agreement between the 6 sending schools and the CMAPTS states that the formula to be used is 50% is based on the average daily membership of the sending districts versus the total average daily membership of the other 5. So that's K through 12 average daily membership. That's 50% of the formula. And it's based on a 4-year rolling average. So the other 50% is based on the average daily membership of students that attend CMAVTS. 21.65% is the percentage of Danville's average daily memberships when using that formula versus the other 5 districts. So the conception that if you send a student to us this year, it costs you more money this year, and if you remove a student this year, it eliminates some expense for you, that's not necessarily correct. Eventually that will be the case because of the 4-year rolling average, but it takes a couple of years for that to impact how much you pay and impact that percentage. Does that make sense to people? Okay. Okay.
Does that mean now that we're paying 1/5 of the budget,
That is.
while there are 6 districts, which is,
Yes.
we're more than, paying more
You
than
are.
1/6?
You are, yes. So that is exactly what that means. Because you have some schools that are quite small, that have a very low percentage. And you do have, I believe, one school that's larger than you as far as number of students that attend and total average daily membership. The dollar amount that would represent, you can see it there, is $1,609,592. Are there any other questions on that slide? Okay. So there was a pie graph here. However, when we translated this from PowerPoint to Google, those slides didn't work here on this presentation. So the 20% you see there, what I was showing was that 80% of our expenditures are salaries and benefits. The other 20% is made up by these items. As you can see, supplies, equipment, books, 8.1%, and so on. Okay, Jeff, thank you. As far as the equipment, this is a breakdown of what the equipment expenditures. So obviously, most of that, vocational equipment. And then we're a one-to-one school, so every year we buy the 9th graders Chromebooks, and they're on a 4-year cycle, because by the 4th year, they've pretty much gone through their useful life. And that's, any questions regarding that? Okay. I have another slide in here that you can't see. The slide that you aren't able to see would have shown you where our revenues come from. So I already showed you that $7.4 million, which is the majority of where we get our funding, comes from the sending districts. We get state funding of around $500,000, which is a little bit less than $1,000 per student through a vocational subsidy. The basic education subsidy we do not get, you get that. And then that's why, therefore, we charge you an amount that, and then we do have a federal Perkins grant that is generally between $150,000 and $160,000. And I should mention that we still have a few tuition-paying students. So we had, when Benton was included in our consortium, we still have some students remaining from that, and they are now tuition-paying. Okay. And this is just a 5-year outlook. So after the 22-23 school year, we should still have a $1.1 million balance in our general fund. And you can see as we go out the next couple of years, we'll still have a fund balance. We are using some of our fund balance to balance the budget. So we're running at a deficit. Any questions? Keep in mind, this is our operating budget. This does not include any of the renovations that we're planning. That's a separate. No questions? All right. Thank you for having us.
Tony, actually,
Yeah.
for the new board members, can you explain the construction percentage? Because we are
Yes.
within a construction project right now.
Okay, so that, the construction, the percentage, so the 21% that you saw there, that's your percentage, that's based on membership. For capital expenditures, that's based on a different formula. That's based on market values. So those, unfortunately for Danville, means your percentage is even higher. I believe it's 25 and a half, right around 25.5. Yeah, it's yes. So, yeah, you're the highest as far as when it comes to the market values. Yes. So that's how that's determined. Yeah. You're welcome. And I think the amount of that project is around 4.3 million that Danville is committed to. Okay, thank you.
We're under the consent agenda. Is there anyone who would like to remove anything from the consent agenda? Could you give me those numbers?
13.12. 13.12.
Okay.
I second that motion.
Right. Can I get a motion to approve with the exception of 13.1 through 13.4? Okay. 13.1, 13.2, and 13.4. 13.3 is remaining. So can I get a motion to approve all except?
Make a motion.
Thank you.
Approve those three.
Okay, hang on, I need to remove them before I. Okay. We have Mrs. Cooper first, correct? Mr. Burkhart,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Kroll. Dr. Gatacho,
Yes.
Dr. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Reichert,
Yes.
Mr. Huron,
Yes.
Mr. Vognetz,
Yes.
Mr. Clauser.
Yes. Okay. Can I get a motion for the board to take action to approve the payment of invoices 0007833, 0007894, 0007998, 0008092, 0008180 with a total amount of $35,333.62 to K&W Design Environments for the athletic fields and project as presented.
I motion to approve.
Second.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Kroll,
Mr. Kroll.
Yes.
Dr. Gatacho,
Yes.
Dr. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Reichert,
Yes.
Mr. Huron,
Yes.
Mr. Vognetz,
Yes.
Mr. Burkhart,
Yes.
Mr. Clauser.
Yes. Motion passes. Can I get a motion to take action to approve the payment of invoice 47615 in the amount of $17,451.88 to KCBA Architects for professional services rendered through January 31st, 2022 for the Liberty Valley renovation project as presented?
Please remember to speak into your mic so that those on YouTube can hear.
I make a motion.
I second.
Mr. Kroll,
Yes.
Dr. Gatachu,
Yes.
Dr. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Reichard,
Yeah, yes.
Mr. Huron,
Yes.
Mr. Vognetz,
Yes.
Mr. Brookhart,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Clauser.
Yes. Can I get a motion to take action to approve RFP quotation from Forerunner Technologies in the amount of $115,299.35 for Liberty Valley Intermediate School cabling project as presented?
I motion.
I second.
Dr. Gatachu,
Yes.
Dr. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Reichard,
Yes.
Mr. Huron,
Yes.
Mr. Vognetz,
Yes.
Mr. Brookhart,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Kroll,
Yes.
Mr. Clauser.
Yes. Can I get a motion to take action to accept the resignation of Emily Morgan as club supervisor for students preserving?
That's
Nope, that
consent.
was in consent.
Yep, I was about to say was.
8.2. No, 8.2 wasn't.
Oh, 2 wasn't? Okay, 1.
Yeah, 8.2 wasn't.
This one.
Yeah.
That's not a consent.
No. Because it costs money.
Okay. Okay, can I get a motion to take action to approve the following coaches for the 2022 spring season? Boys lacrosse assistant coach Mike Gursky. Boys lacrosse volunteer assistant coach Spencer Kavanaugh. Boys lacrosse volunteer assistant coach Joe Thorpe. Track and field assistant coach Mike Schultz. Track and field volunteer assistant coach Sarah Hale. Track and field volunteer assistant coach Mike Marr. Boys tennis volunteer coach Carlos D'Assamblia. Sambila. Sorry. Girls soccer Angela Savio. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion.
I
Second.
It was, yeah.
I was ahead a split of a second. so-
3 of us.
Dr. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Reichard,
Yes.
Mr. Huron,
Yes.
Mr. Vognetz,
Yes.
Mr. Brookhart,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Kroll,
Yes.
Dr. Gatachu,
Yes.
Mr. Clauser.
Yes. Board to take action to approve the quote of $95,144.69 from Houghton Mifflin Harcourt Publishing Company for grades 3 through 5 ELA curriculum materials as presented.
Make a motion.
I second.
Point of information. These are the materials that have been on display, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Ready? Mr. Reichard,
Yes.
Mr. Huron,
Yes.
Mr. Vognetz,
Yes.
Mr. Brookhart,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Kroll,
Yes.
Dr. Gatachu,
Yes.
Dr. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Clauser.
Yes. Can I get a motion to take action to approve bills for payment for February 11th, 2022 through March 10th, 2022, as presented?
Motion. Second.
Wait,
Wayne and Rich.
Mr. Huron,
Yes.
Mr. Vognetz,
Yes.
Mr. Brookhart,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Kroll,
Yes.
Dr. Katachu,
Yes.
Dr. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Reichard,
Abstain.
Mr. Clauser.
Yes. Can I get a motion to take action to approve the 2022-2023 CSIU preliminary general operating budget as presented?
I motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Vognetz,
Yes.
Mr. Brookhart,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Kroll,
Yes.
Dr. Katachu,
Yes.
Dr. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Reichard,
Yes.
Mr. Huron,
Yes.
Mr. Clauser.
Yes. Need a motion to take action to approve the 2022-2023 proposed budget for Columbia Montour Columbia Montour Area Vocational Technical School as presented.
Motion.
I second.
Mr. Brookhart,
I am abstaining. I consult for a company that could compete for business at the VOTEC, so I'll abstain from this.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Kroll,
Yes.
Dr. Katachu,
Yes.
Dr. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Reichard,
Yes.
Mr. Huron,
Yes.
Mr. Vognetz,
Yes.
Mr. Clauser.
Yes. Can I get a motion to take action to approve the budget transfer for the 2021-2022 school year as presented?
I motion to approve.
I second.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Kroll,
Yes.
Dr. Katachu,
Yes.
Dr. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Reichard,
Yes.
Mr. Huron,
Yes.
Mr. Vognetz,
Yes.
Mr. Brookhart,
Yes.
Mr. Clauser.
Yes. Sure.
I can be me. Okay, I'll be me. All right, we pulled out the policy 903, and I'm thinking we should probably have some discussion, if we would like to do that on the first reading for that, and I'll take notes as we discuss.
I-
So, Mr.
Since I'm the one
Brookhart?
that initiated, I'm not quite sure which one fits with which, but I know the first one I have here is 006. And
Okay,
if I could, sorry to break from
so
your
then that's
order.
13, just for knowledge. 006 is 13.2, so we'll look
Right.
at that one first.
Yeah, and here's the point, and this is not sour grapes because I'm here. I was appointed, and so was Dr. Green. But what's here I don't think is consistent with the school code on appointing a board member. The school code, I'll just take a brief portion of this. The remaining members of the Board of School Directors shall by a majority vote thereof fill such vacancy from the qualified electors of the district within 30 days thereafter. The key words are the remaining members of the Board of School Directors.
Correct.
When you appointed Dr. Green and I, there were 7 members on the board at that point. You only needed 4. You took this to a vote of 5, I heard. I wasn't in the room. Is that correct or not? I just wanna
No,
make
we did
sure.
not.
Did you stop at 4?
Well, everyone voted, but we took,
Okay.
We ended up getting 5 or even 6
Okay, I just want to
votes
make
for
sure.
somebody, but-
Like I said, it's not sour grapes. I'm here, but I was reading this, and is that right?
And just to clarify that, Section 315 dictates how many, because it depends on how many vacancies you have.
Right.
That determines the majority of the remaining members.
Okay.
So when you have two vacancies, with 7, the majority would require 4. So that's why, it really depends on, how
Yeah.
many vacancies.
I'm
why
assuming,
it's-
sorry, I didn't want to
No,
interrupt.
go
you.
ahead.
I'm assuming this came from PSBA, right?
Right.
Because the first citation they gave us doesn't even refer to this. I was reading it, and it's not even mentioned. So
Yeah,
that's
it
what
comes
kinda-
from PSBA.
Yeah, that's
It's
what
the
kind of
new-
confused me a little bit.
The dark, it's the new one that they had just sent
Okay.
us after the legislation change.
Yeah, the first thing that's cited that they give you does not refer to it at all. I read it 3 or 4 times.
I've
I thought
seen
I'm-
some of that too.
I thought, am I missing something? But, okay, just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Beyond me to say which laws apply to which.
Okay.
Okay, what page was that on, Mr. Report,
Uh,
or section?
In terms
That was
of,
13-2.
Yeah, but I meant on the actual document to see if there needed to be any, do you think any changes
it's
need to
it's letter U is the letter, and it's 006, and it's down where they get into how many votes you need to approve things, and there's a long list of them.
majority.
It was just that one that stuck out because we just did it, and the citations didn't match it, and I wanted to make sure that if it comes up again.
I have 2 proposed amendments for 13.2.
And it says, full member, okay, that's how it was worded on that.
Okay.
I guess full membership of the board at that time.
Yeah, and it just says the
Yeah.
remaining members, which, that's what I'm holding.
No, it says requiring affirmative vote of a majority of the full membership of the board. So at that time, we only had a full membership of 7.
Probably if you added those few words, that would,
Well, that's in here.
the way I,
Actions requiring the affirmative votes of the majority of the full membership of the board, which is number 4.
but it doesn't say at that time. It says full membership of the board.
No, but I meant, what I'm saying is at that time, it was,
Right, okay.
yeah. Okay.
Yep. that's
Do you
what
want
need.
those words added?
Yep.
Yes, Dr. Green.
So I have 2 proposed amendments.
On
to-
this one?
On 13.2.
Okay, thank you.
The first one is because it's been difficult for parents who are concerned about issues that the board may be discussing, that the agenda is only 24 hours prior to the meeting itself. I would like to propose that we change page 4 of that policy to read, "The district shall publicly post the agenda for all open meetings of the board or board committees at which deliberation or official action may take place no later than 2 business days prior to the time of the meeting."
We
The-
do that, so that works.
Because that'll give the parents enough time to see the agenda to change.
is.
Because I think
Well,
most of the time.
it's not 2 business days, it's 2 calendar days.
Yeah, so I'm proposing that part of the change in the policy itself is 2 business days, which means most of the time, the parents would have Thursday and Friday in order to decide whether or not they want to attend any of the meetings and make arrangements. Because oftentimes the times are very difficult for parents to make. And I think we should be very serious about having parental involvement in what we're doing. And so,
I just got a question. Is that on 006 or?
That's on 006 in this one.
006, page 4.
And just for the board's knowledge, with respect to the 24-hour posting period, that is outlined in the Sunshine Act amendments that created an agenda posting process that requires all entities that are subject to the Sunshine Act to post their agenda 24 hours in advance. So the Sunshine Act creates the floor. Obviously, you guys can decide to create longer, but just so that you have that context of why 24 hours was put into 006 to be consistent with those requirements.
As a parent myself, if I was only given 24 hours notice to decide if I wanted to discuss an agenda item with the board, I would not be able to rearrange my time on Monday or any of the other curricular days. And so I feel that this gives parents an extended amount of time in order to actually decide whether they want to come to the board meeting, speak at the board meeting, and make their feelings known. And I think that's an important role of the board. So do I need to formally propose this as a motion to amend this?
Well, this is a first reading, so the revisions can be made to the policy in advance of a second reading.
Does it require a vote?
Depends if everybody agrees on it.
Correct, yeah.
What are the thoughts of the others?
I agree with Dr. Green's idea that another 24 hours can make a lot of difference.
Would that be
So I-
2 business days? Because we have it on Monday, it makes it a little more complicated,
So-
or 2 calendar days would
So-
be the difference.
I think he meant 2 work days, right? So in
Yeah,
terms of
so Thursday.
to sort things out at work if you want to show up.
Correct, that's why I specified business days.
It's because Saturday and Sunday, yeah, you have enough time to read, but you don't have time to talk to your colleagues or whoever you need to talk to.
Correct.
So is there anything against extending another 24 hours? Making it on a Thursday instead of a Friday?
Okay.
Because you guys do a lot.
We
there's a
try
lot
to
of
do it Friday
activity
as-
that's
yes.
going on.
That's precisely it. We have to meet with the board president and have the meeting. We usually have that on Thursday afternoon, and then on Friday, we're able to complete everything and put it in order to be, posted. So if, I mean, I wouldn't be so uncomfortable with Thursday, but posting it on Wednesday would be a bit more difficult.
No, I think if it gets posted on Thursday, you're okay. I mean, I feel
But
like.
2 work days would include the Monday and
Monday
the
and
Friday.
Friday,
We'd have to
so-
have it done by probably 7 PM Thursday to be
Yes.
reasonable.
So that's Thursday, so it's
Okay.
not, you guys may have to meet on Wednesday or something, but yeah, Thursday, if it gets
Yeah,
posted
we'd
on
have to meet
Thursday,
on
24
Wednesday.
hours earlier, would you see that's enough?
As long as there's work days in
Yeah.
between, because that's the difficulty, right?
Yeah, previously, we had our meetings Tuesdays, so this makes a difference. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's true as well. Well, the board gets we make sure the board gets the agenda first, and then 24 hours later, it's open to the public. So now that would make it go on a Wednesday, so it would back us up again another day, which shortens our time frame in getting things ready.
I know it may present some logistical difficulties, but one of the biggest complaints I hear, and one of the biggest complaints I had on it as a parent, is being able to see the agenda in time in order to get here to speak at a board meeting, or a curriculum meeting, or any of the other meetings. And so, our role as the board is to serve the public in general. And if we can do this in order to make it more accessible to the public, I feel strongly that we should do so.
So we get it 1 day ahead. So typically, when I receive my notification that it's posted, it's on a Friday. So open to the public is then on Saturday.
Okay, correct.
So if we're extending it 24 hours, I mean, that would be going out Thursday at 7?
Yeah, at least, for the public.
Right.
For you, then
Or-
we'd
or
have to have
it-
it out for Wednesday.
Okay.
And then we'd have to meet him Tuesday, which is almost a whole week before we have our meeting.
We would still, by the new law, have the ability, if we needed to change something based on emergency, some type, we could still do that.
Once it's
That
posted.
would be my only concern in the age of COVID,
Yeah.
where we got to get in here as soon as we possibly can. I mean, if there's something that we could put in there, I mean, I like the idea, but if there's something that we can put in there for emergencies, that the board needs to meet.
Emergencies already covered. There is some, I forget, I read all the
Yeah.
policies. There is some stipulation in the emergency criteria
24 hours.
that you don't even have to post the agenda in emergency setting, I think.
Yep.
I think
Correct.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I know I read it, that it creates a completely different view of an emergency setting.
Well, this
That
says
would-
for all open meetings, though. I don't know, but I'm just saying what it says.
Then you put the exception in there of emergency meetings.
So what we're proposing, or Dr. Green's proposing, does not affect adding emergency items into the agenda. It's just the general idea so that they have, emergencies and emergencies, they cannot help that.
With the,
And
with
that's
the,
my
sun-
understanding of the policy too, because the policy states that under certain conditions that you can add things to the agenda without publicly posting it.
with the Sunshine Act, it permits up to 24 hours in advance, essentially that floor of posting the agenda, that you can make additions to your agenda. So that would not prohibit the district from adding items to the agenda and posting an amended agenda with having it, the timeframe set to where there has to be a meeting set on Tuesday. I would imagine just how things happen with resignations and other items, that there would be amendments posted to the agenda anyway. So I don't know how feasible that may be, if the intent is to provide parents with advance notice so they can request time off with amendments being possibly made still on Friday, Saturday, if it's going to achieve the goal that you guys are trying to. I just want to make the board aware that that
So
doesn't
I'm
prevent
assuming
those
that the
additions.
amendments are not a significant portion of the agenda. If the amendments are like 10 items up to, 2 items up to 10, I think it's worth posting the 8 items ahead of time and
Correct.
just add on the 2 items instead of, for the sake of the 2 items, moving the whole 10 forward. I know I think we discussed this a couple of years ago about when to do this, and we agreed that there's a lot of work to be done to prepare for the board and that time, those things that Dr. Boyle is mentioning. So we had discussed it before. And now the difference is, instead of our meeting being on a Wednesday, now it's on Monday. We had it on Wednesday, right?
At one
For-
point, yeah, and then we had it Tuesday for a little
Tuesday,
bit, and then
so,
Monday.
So now the fact that we moved it to Monday, the meeting day came closer, but the time to post did not change much. So it's at different times.
If we engage with this honestly, it shouldn't adversely affect the business of the board. Because the things that are going to be added on late to the schedule will not be main agenda items. There'll be
Yes.
smaller things like resignations and acute issues. And so from my perspective, and someone can tell me if I'm wrong, because I'm always happy to know if I'm wrong, the major issues that most people are interested in would be posted much earlier, allowing a larger public voice. One of the problems that we have right now in public perception is the perception of transparency. And part of this addresses that perception of transparency by allowing the public to see what we're going to talk about and provide them with the opportunity when they may not otherwise be able to. And so I feel very strongly that the more notice that we give the public in this setting, the better off we are as a board and as district in general.
Is moving the board meeting date change anything that we can consider, if that helps, to be honest, instead of Monday, moving it to Wednesday or something?
That's tough to do for some of our board members.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why Monday was chosen. That was a discussion previously. All right, so it sounds to me like the consensus is 2 business days prior to the time of the meeting, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And another thing if you wanted to move it to a Tuesday, Doc, that's the same night Columbia Montour VOTEC has their
No,
meetings.
I think we'll stay with Monday. I mean, since we agree that
We'll work it out.
Okay.
I have a second.
Okay?
Page 10 of agenda item 13.2. It's a new paragraph I suggested that we add in the spirit of increasing parental involvement and transparency. I would like this to read, the board will create 2 parental advisory positions to advocate for the community perspective for each public committee. The positions will be announced publicly at the board meeting, and the parents filling the roles will be appointed by the board. The terms of this position will be 1 year. The process of selection will be determined by the board. These parents will be expected to attend as many of the subcommittee meetings as possible that they're allowed to, and actively participate and advocate for the community's perspectives at these meetings. This is in addition to these committees being open to the public. From my perspective, parents bring a unique expertise that's needed to inform the decisions of the individual committee meetings, things like the curricular committee and the finance committee. This will assure a degree of parental involvement moving forward that we don't currently have, and would hopefully encourage more of the public to show up at these meetings. And the policy already allows the directors of each of those individual committees to appoint people with special expertise. My argument here is that parents, by their very nature, have special expertise, and that we should just formalize 2 rotating positions for each of those individual committees, for which a parent's voice will be known who it is and respected in the context of each of these individual committees.
So now, I've thought about that. Does electing a person make other people not come? Because now if people feel like they have a representative there, because one of the biggest thing I saw over the last 2.5 years is almost nobody shows up in the committee meetings.
This is the problem I'm trying to fix. So right now you have nothing,
So,
and having something is better than nothing. And part of that is the parents understanding that they can actually attend these meetings, which oftentimes
Yes.
parents don't understand, that they're open to the public and people are able to attend. And in fact, we should encourage them actively to attend. But to formalize two positions, that will mean that at least the parental voice is heard at every single meeting. And there are some which parents are probably more reluctant to attend. If we formally have positions and people commit to them, their voices will always be heard in that context. And it is yet another resource for the public to reach out to the people if they cannot attend those meetings, to speak as well.
So what does that do for us that can't be achieved with the format we have now? If we have committees that have designated individuals on the committees, we're accessible. It seems like we're building a layer into an appointed position. Right now, for pick the athletic committee, they can contact me, they can contact Richard, they can contact somebody else. Why would we need that other layer?
The difference between having someone in the meeting and hearing the discussion itself and being able to represent that when they're asked about it, to asking us directly. And part of this for me is that there appears to be in the community some distrust of the board, and this provides someone who is not directly beholden to the board to sit on these committees and to provide another access public point. That's from my perspective.
I'm not even sure that's legal. We're appointing an extra person essentially to the board. I don't know that we can.
Not the board
legally do
itself,
No.
the subcommittees.
Maybe more as a liaison type to
Correct.
the board. I
Yeah.
don't think I think you're right, you can't appoint them to a committee,
Right.
but a liaison to the board. And if I could just go to one specific committee, looking historically, I fully support the Liberty Valley project that needs to be done, but this board has a huge decision with the middle school coming up. And historically, that type of discussion here has always taken place with focus committees, outside community involvement. And I know the pandemic kind of threw a lot of that stuff out of the realm of possibility for the district, but at least on buildings and grounds and whatever committee, I think it could be helpful in all of them. But I think to encourage, whether it's parental or community involvement, is only a positive for the board and for the community. And I would support what Dr. Green says, whether it's in that form or some modified form to only increase participation, not decrease it. So that's my position on it.
I just don't see what benefit it would be because it's open to the public anyway.
I think there's a large percentage of the population out there that doesn't understand they're actually welcome at these committees and welcome to speak at them. And I know this is a difficulty which we've tried to fix.
I kind of disagree with that. You have a problem here with athletics and football program. You can't get anybody in this room, so don't say they don't listen. I don't believe that. They do listen all the time. So they want to attend or not, it's up to them. When that comes up, they're here. So I do know they will come.
The other thing is posting YouTube for every board meeting has gotten a significant number of community members watching to see what is happening.
Do we have that for things like the curriculum committee? Because those, like the curriculum and finance committee, are the ones that I'm directly thinking of when I think that there needs to be increased parental involvement.
So we had that not too long ago, and I think, I don't know if Jeff can comment on this, but would that pose any additional cost to the system to do this? Can we install one and have it live transmitted at committee meetings? Yes, I remember that. And also, can they ask questions? Okay.
I'm happy to think about this in other ways, but my goal is to have as much parental involvement as possible. And so from my perspective, if you actually create a welcoming environment at some of these committees that are poorly attended, I can't speak to the athletic committee, I'm sure that's very well attended and somewhat controversial. But, I mean, the main goal of the district is academics, among other things. And so to have more involvement from the parents who are the stakeholders, I think is important. And there may be other ways to do that. But my main impression is, I didn't even know before I started attending the curriculum meetings that I was allowed to attend the curriculum meetings. It was not clear to me. And I am not the only one. And so I'm trying to find a way to improve involvement in those committees where people have not been involved
And the board's-
historically.
The board still maintains full control by its vote.
Correct.
In the end, nothing happens unless we vote the majority for it to happen.
Correct. Their role is also advisory.
You're only
I
asking
believe
for
that
input.
the policy says advisory, right?
Correct.
Right, the chairperson can ask for someone to come in and advise on certain topics as far as expertise.
Oh, okay, so it's,
This is why I very specifically use the language that I think parents carry an expertise in each of these individual
Oh,
areas.
okay, so-
that fits that criteria.
so does that mean you invite person for one meeting, or you will have that person for a cycle of 1 year, as you stated? Or?
If it's in policy, then it is a commitment we would make for all meetings, whereas the way it is now, the policy that we have now, it is for the invitation to have them speak. We do, do post the meetings, we post them in the newspaper, we make sure they're on the door, of the buildings, that kind of thing already. This week, after this discussion was had at another meeting that I had, I ended up doing the blackboard, making sure people knew that it was out. I recommend that we try to do some of these other things first, as opposed to actually putting it set in policy.
And Dr. Boyle, I do have to say thank you, because you made additional efforts in order to broadcast some of these meetings out to the public. And there was a lot of comment on that, and I think the public appreciated that. I most certainly appreciated that.
I'll say one more thing, and then I'll stop on this. I said this the night in front of all of you when I was appointed. Sitting in a room with the 12 people that wanted to be on the board, I don't know if you remember, but I said, you're not going to go wrong here. You have great people. Why not give those people more of a voice? They've shown they're interested. Formalize something for them. There were some fantastic people in that room. There were no bad ones. I mean, all of them had their heart in the right place. They all want to be a part of things. There are going to be only 9 of us, but the community right now has that kind of interest. Let's build on it. That's my belief, and I'll stop and
Agree
let others
completely.
talk.
And I'll add another thought. I think what we're kind of getting back to is the ability for us to better communication to drive people to have that voice. You know, I know people that have had discussions with me. I'm saying there's a place for you to come say that. There's a microphone. We deal with people that are happy behind their keyboard and want to bombard us with their opinions on stuff. And I've replied to a few, politely said, we'd love to hear you in public. Next meeting's on such and such a date, they don't show up. So I kind of struggle that we're building, another layer when we have the opportunity to do things with complete participation. So I respect that the view of it looks different. If you don't reach out and know about it, well, maybe that's something we can focus on. I also respect, thinking about something that's atypical, like a building project, that maybe we should have a subcommittee completely to support our friends from Montour, Columbia Montour, or our own building project. Maybe that's a reasonable place to have a subcommittee. But to take a committee and then we have participation at the board level, we have it open for everybody, and then now we're going to have these other people that we have some responsibility to appoint them. Now we have some jurisdictional, some kind of responsibility for those. Why not just get everybody to come? We have an auditorium. Tell everybody to come. And I respect too. Try rehiring a football coach here. The room will be full. I know it's a sensitive subject. I don't mean to get into any of that at all. But I'm just saying that there is opportunity, and I think we should try to go down that path to really accentuate, to bring people in to have that voice.
I just want to say, I want to first thank you for respectfully disagreeing. We can disagree and get along just fine.
Absolutely.
Second, I'm a pragmatist. The reality is that it is often difficult to get people to do the things that they say they want to do or could do. And so to actually formalize this to some degree assures that there will at least be some parental input. And a piece of it, once again, I'll say, I think that's helpful, is that it provides another source that are not constrained in the same manner that the board is, that can be a public-facing portion to talk to parents when they have questions, in addition to us.
But
And
see, they wouldn't represent the board.
I understand that. I understand that completely.
But that might
and-
be misconception.
But they could do that now. They could
Exactly.
find somebody that's comfortable and they said, hey, we'd sit around, you know, the picnic table and say, we all feel this way. Why don't you go to the board? I'm not going. You're not going. All right, I'll go.
Sure, I understand.
So we start formalizing some of that. I think that we're going into some areas that I'm not real comfortable with.
But the
right
issue
now.
still remains, that I go to a curriculum committee, and essentially, there's no public that I didn't ask to come along with me when I wasn't a board member. That I walk into the finance committee, and it's celebrated that a single person has actually shown up to the finance committee. So this is what the key I'm trying to get at. I'm going to put sports aside. To be honest, that's in some ways the least interesting part to me, because academics is why I got on the board and what I was interested in. And so I'm looking for those areas to get people involved. And maybe there's a better way, and I'm open to it. But this was my first thought.
How is attendance at committee meetings? Just curious. How is attendance at committee meetings? I haven't been to any.
Minimal.
It
Honestly,
depends. Curriculum tends to have more at most times. We've just reestablished the committees most recently with the new board members. Finance doesn't get a lot of people. Building and grounds has gotten a few, but not often. You know, so it's not a big thing. But prior to my being here, there weren't committees. So it's a fairly new concept for this community as well. We didn't have committee meetings for whatever reason there were, you know.
So, Dr. Green, I have one idea, which is one or two families may not represent because we're, even though this is a small community, we have our own subgroup of people, and you elect one from one subgroup does not relay the information to the others. It might look good on paper. I think what I thought, actually something that I forgot to propose, was to put those Zoom or those on where people can actively participate and aggressively promote the times and what they're all about. It's all already there. We tried it during the pandemic when everything was very sensitive. Even then, I don't think we had a lot of, especially finance. So I feel like probably we can start somewhere, see how it goes, and if it doesn't work, then add something else. And I feel like, I mean, maybe putting that back on those videos might be, or the Zoom thing is where people can comment, attend, also comment, would be probably a better idea. Or not a better idea. But
There are better and worse ideas. That's
another
okay.
idea.
Just what strikes me is perfection is the enemy of the good, right? And this may not be a perfect way to do it, and I'll happily admit it's not a perfect way to do it. The perfect way to do it would be for people just to show up because they're interested and concerned, and they have all the time in the world, and they're not taking care of their kids, and dealing with their job, and cooking dinner, and doing all the other things that they have to do. I'm just trying to find a pragmatic way to increase representation. Will it be perfect? No. It will not be perfect. It will not be wholly representative of our public, and I understand that. But I'm looking for some solution to what, to me, is clearly a problem.
Would that be a good idea to reach out to the community and see, get an input in
Sure,
terms of?
I would be
maybe
delighted if there's a
we should
mechanism to do that. I think that'd be
you know,
fantastic.
One question for Jeff. I had to call you twice today. What's the average attendance online on these meetings? Over time. So I think that's the best way to reach people and say, how do you want your participation to increase, something like this, and ask people to what they have, and then we go with that? What do you think, Doctor?
I guess I'm just trying to understand how you're formally going to get feedback.
Oh, well,
Should we have them email you?
yeah.
We can do a
Yes, no.
survey.
We can do a survey?
Oh, yeah, I've done them.
That was said in jest, by the way.
And you hurt my feelings.
So I think at this point, the board has an option to either table the motion to see what the interest is from the community, or otherwise come to a consensus tonight as to what you would like to see in 006 to move forward to have for a second reading at the next board meeting. So I think, depending on the conversation here, it may be worthwhile for the board to table it, but that is ultimately up to you guys.
I would like to see the results of a survey from the parents.
make a motion to table pending further discussion.
Agree? I second.
I think that's great. If we're seriously taking what the parents want, to actually ask the parents and have them tell us, I think that's fantastic. I couldn't hope for a better outcome.
Motion to table?
I second.
Mr. Kroll.
Yes.
Dr. Katachu.
Yes.
Dr. Green.
Yes?
Mr. Reichard.
Yes.
Mr. Huron.
Yes.
Mr. Vognetz.
Yes.
Mr. Burkhart.
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper.
Yes.
Mr. Clauser.
Yes. Okay, that was 13.2.
13.2.
Good.
Okay, back to 13.1, which is 903. I think, Rich, did you have something?
Yeah, I actually would like to make a motion to strike out paragraph under guidelines. All individuals wishing to participate in an open board meeting shall register their intent in writing with the board secretary 2 days in advance of the meeting and shall include the name and address of the participant, topic to be addressed, group affiliation if applicable.
That's in the current one, it's just not been observed,
I understand.
so
I would
that's
like to-
fine.
I would like to
We
strike
don't
that out.
observe it. The only issue there is that, and it's just a question, could we have them sign in instead of verbally giving their address? That has come up in a topic that the address piece, we shouldn't ask for in public. We need to get it, but we wouldn't want to ask for it in public.
So
And
is that
that's
the reason for
particularly
the-
with respect to the requirements for opening it up to district or residents to do that verification process. There was a recent federal court case that said that requiring members of the public to give their address during public comment has a chilling speech. So that's why our office has made additional recommendations to Policy 903 to make it consistent with the court's conclusions on that. We're also expecting that PSBA will make recommended revisions to their policy as well. We haven't seen that. That's why in the interim, we've made those recommendations that Dr. Boyle forwarded on to you earlier today.
Then we'll have like a sign-in sheet for when
Yeah.
somebody wants to speak. Does
I-
that work?
Yeah, signing the sheet would work instead of them specifying, and if anybody does want to enforce the policy, then that means everybody that would have to want to comment, they would have to do 2-day notice.
Right, I get it.
So I would like to strike that whole paragraph.
That's why I sent this out to you guys earlier.
Yep.
Thank you. And then the other piece on that is at the very bottom of that page. Jennifer has shown me that we should strike in the last thing the words too lengthy, personally directed, abusive, or irrelevant. I guess obscene? When a statement is obscene, yes, okay.
So what's
Would be
wrong with
okay.
that?
Correct.
So with respect to and I call it the Pennsbury case, but it's really Marshall versus, I think, Amuso or something. With the Pennsbury case, the judge found that that language is constitutionally vague and overbroad because it becomes more subjective rather than objective to say this is personally directive. So it's having school districts, school entities engage in viewpoint discrimination a bit. So that's why we're recommending to strike that language to be consistent with the Pennsbury case right now based on that, the judge's initial decision to prevent Pennsbury from implementing their policy 903, which is consistent with this language as well. So that's why we said, pare it back down to those reasonably objective standards for obscene and profane.
Is that case under any appeals of any type?
That case is still ongoing right now. That initial decision came from a preliminary injunction request. My understanding from reviewing earlier today, it's still ongoing, so there wouldn't be any appeal as of yet. And again, we'll continue to monitor that, and as we see more information come along, because again, if appeals court changes that ruling, obviously that makes a difference for all of the school districts in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, okay.
And then 13.4.
Wait, real quick before we move
Okay.
off that topic. So we're talking in particular about conduct at the board meeting in the context, and just to qualify that, so then if an individual participates in public comment session it's the discretion of the presiding officer that drives that decision?
Yes. And again, unfortunately with the courts, they say, with respect to obscenity, you know it when you see it. That doesn't prevent all of the decorum requirements. So again, if someone's being disruptive to the extent you need to call security, you have a police officer escort out, those abilities for the school entity to continue to conduct the business, they're still contained in there. So it's just paring back a couple of the provisions relative to, personally directed speech and, abusive, they said that's too fuzzy, essentially.
Right, I understand, I'm just getting the pragmatic side. So we're at a board meeting, someone comes up and starts down a path. The board members don't have the discretion to say, whoa, hang on a second.
It's a fuzzy line, and
Well, it's important.
That's why.
But we're talking in depth of what can trigger that interaction. But to say it's fuzzy, like my view of fuzzy might be different than that man's view of fuzzy. So I just want to be clear, we as a governing body understand how that needs to work in the real world. So I'm trying to get out a little bit.
So we're really
Okay,
losing
if you look at the line above that,
I'm trying to get to that
all
one.
statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. No participant may address or question school directors individually. It doesn't say that specifically. Participant may be recognized by the presiding officer, so the reference is always now to the presiding officer in the way we're
Right, so
redoing
the
this
presiding officer is
Would-
the only
one. Would be
one,
the- Yes.
we could say, hey. But that man in his capacity tonight, of course, as it moves
Mhm.
forward, is the only
Right.
one that could take action or drive the action.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
That's the changes on this one.
Okay. That's not the changes, it's just what we're changing is the criteria by which he can make said decision.
Correct.
Right.
So
So it doesn't change the protocol of how that works, because that's happened at board meetings before.
Yeah,
That's why I want to be clear.
It does, and decorum is now really governed more by laws than policy. We have protection through harassment and disorderly conduct statutes than we do on our own policies based on this case. Right? Is that?
Essentially, yeah.
Okay, all right. Fair enough.
The other item, let's see. No, that's
13.4.
okay.
4.
No, she's still at 13.2, I think.
That? Okay, is 13.1 done?
That was 13.2.
13 point.
No,
don't
13.1 for
That was
discussion of the
13.1.
policy 903.
Oh,
Yeah, so we
My
did
apologies.
13.2 first, and now.
Yeah,
moving
now
on.
now we're left with 13.4.
Right.
Well, do we do anything with, do we vote
we
on
have- we
anything
have
with
to
that?
Oh,
13-1.
With 13.1?
with the changes for 13.1, yes, I'm sorry.
I need a motion to take action to approve the first reading of policy number 903, public participation at board meetings with the changes.
Motion.
So did we specify I'm sorry, can you state exactly what the newer version would say, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry. It would be, we would be removing, under guidelines, we would remove all individuals wishing to participate in an open board meeting shall register their intent in writing with the board secretary 2 days in advance of the meeting and shall include name, address of the participant, topic to be addressed, and group affiliation if applicable.
So remove that.
We're removing that. Under the next line, we're removing the word address. So we would ask them to announce their name and any group affiliation if they have one. Okay, removing address. And then on the, it's the last line of page 3, the presiding officer may interrupt or terminate a participant's statement when the statement is too obscene. Or is obscene, not too, just is obscene.
That what,
Okay, that's
Mr.
it.
Wagner, you,
Yes.
okay, I second then.
Dr. Katachu,
Yes.
Dr. Green,
yes.
Mr. Reichert,
Yes.
Mr. Huron,
Yes.
Mr. Vognetz,
Yes.
Mr. Brookhart,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Kroll,
Yes.
Mr. Clauser.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Now, 13.4.
13.4. Yeah.
And that's
Governance and-
policy 11,
that's the-
governance and
That's the
standards.
governance,
Yeah.
PSBA governance.
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment that equity is mentioned in here, and Title IX is something that's always really important to me personally, and I know we talked a lot about it the last 4 years I was on the board, and hopefully we'll make a strong effort to be as close to compliance as possible, and the equity piece, I'm primarily talking Title IX, not only athletically and as it extends into other activities, but also bullying, because Title IX does extend into that. And
Right.
I know that that's always such an elusive topic for administrators to really get ahead of with social media and some of the pressures that we have out in the community, but the more we can do with that. I know our bullying policy needs to be reviewed. I think we're about 4 or 5 months away from the end of that. I think every three years it needs to be reviewed.
We
right?
did review it.
Did you?
Okay, with all the new Title IX, when the Title IX law changed, we set up committees, you know,
Good. I saw the
and
administrative
individuals.
regulations, I haven't seen the
Right.
policy.
So we've been working on all that and trying to keep up with it, so to
Okay,
speak.
great. Yeah.
Did you want any
That's all I
changes
was
in this
look- That's all I
policy?
was looking at. Nope.
Okay.
When was that policy last reviewed? Because on the policy under board docs, it's actually last revised 6/12/19.
19, that's what I
Okay,
saw.
And it
well,
does
that's
say
probably when it
every
was, because
3
that's right
years.
after I got here. So, yeah, that's probably correct,
Yeah, so.
yeah. I'll check it.
I think the policy says every 3 years. Mr.
Yes,
Logan,
it does.
Is that right? It needs to
To
be
be reviewed
updated.
every 3 years.
Yeah, the
Okay.
administrative regulations behind it are good. There's reference to Title IX, I think, in that.
Right.
It's very good. The
Yeah.
policy itself is up.
Okay, that's okay. Any changes to this one? Then we need to vote on this one as is.
Okay. Take action to approve the first reading of policy 011, board governance standards, code of conduct as presented.
I motion to approve.
Second.
Johannes and Wayne?
Dr. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Reichard,
Yes.
Mr. Huron,
Yes.
Mr. Vognetz,
Yes.
Mr. Burkhart,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Kroll,
Yes.
Dr. Gatachu,
Yes.
Mr. Clauser.
Yes.
Okay, on 14.1, school times and transportation needs, I talked about this at the last meeting as well, and I just want to make sure the public is aware that we are reviewing our transportation. We have TransFinder, the company that works with our software, to help us look at our bus runs to make them as economical and as narrow as possible, because we're being told we could lose between 4 and 6 bus drivers for the next school year, and there's a great deal of difficulty in hiring bus drivers right now, and the state has not made it any easier lately, so it's a big concern. Mrs. Gordon did mention the fact of an opt-out paperwork. I did have a meeting with the contractors today, and we discussed that to some degree. There is some insurance pieces to be able to make sure we have all students on our bus rosters, but I'm hoping we can come up with some sort of a solution that would work for those parents who are committed to bringing their children and picking them up every day. So we'll have to keep exploring that, because we do want to make sure we're in compliance with insurance. So, but the start times, it's not our hope to start any earlier, but our time between elementary runs and secondary runs may need to be lengthened. Right now, it's about 30, 35 minutes between the two. It may need to be longer because they'll be picking up more kids a longer route. So we'll see how that works out, but we don't have anything definitive. Again, I just want to keep everybody informed with that as we go forward, because I know that is a critical thing for families.
Ricky, on that particular point, I appreciated Mrs. Gordon's input on that. What's like a reasonable kind of expectation on timeline? Like, how would this all start to fit together before we'd have a better sense of impacts?
That's what we're trying to explore. Okay, so I don't really want to speak to it until I have something more definitive. We're looking at even up to the potential of an hour, or maybe
No,
even between them. Oh, a
I
timeline for
apologize.
when we
Yeah,
get
I'm
done.
just not saying the specifics of solving or addressing the problem. I'm saying, when would we have opportunities to kind of say, in a month, we're going to know more, we'll be able, like, how
It
did
is
you
our
see
hope.
it?
We've had them working on it for a few weeks now, but it takes a lot of time to put all these people in and the runs. It's our hope that we'd have something for you in April, but I can't promise.
Okay, thank you.
I'm finished, thank you.
Okay, any board concerns and items on the next meeting agenda?
If I wanted to make a public comment, this would be the time to do it?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
So, as one of the newer board members, I just wanted to say a few things. I have to say my first few weeks on the school board, as a school board member, has been very interesting. I greatly preferred my recent vacation time. In retrospect, should have considered not coming back from Florida. It's very clear to me there's a lot of mistrust of the school board in the community and among the teachers. The teachers are exhausted after 2 strenuous years, and so are the students and the parents. A recent rumor flying around that had no basis in fact was very disturbing for both parents and teachers, and I must say to me. But I take the fact that that rumor was able to spread the way that it did, that it shows the amount of distrust and public feeling of inability to approach the people who would have known the facts of the matter. As the esteemed Terry Pratchett says, a lie can go around the world before the truth gets its boots on. I feel the need to say a few things about my intentions and hopefully the intentions of the rest of the board, though I only speak for myself in this. I want parents involved in the process. I want you to understand that I value your voice, and I want you at both the main board meetings and at the committee meetings, if possible. The schedules are published and you are welcome. If you need help finding them, let me know. I'm available to you. I'll be working closely with Dr. Boyle to get agendas out as early as possible and to make them easier to find so you can see if issues important to you are being discussed. I am open to suggestions on any other way to improve the process. 2, we had the first reading of the policy agenda, item 1312, and I'm very pleased with the results of that discussion. My amendment was an attempt to provide parents with extra time to change their schedules and choose if they want to attend the board meetings by requiring the agenda to be publicly available sooner than it currently is. 3, in order to encourage parental involvement, I also proposed the board creating the advisory positions for more of a community perspective on the subcommittees. From my perspective, parents bring a unique expertise that is needed to inform all our discussions at individual committee meetings. This assures a degree of parental involvement moving forward. 4, I am hoping to propose the formal adoption of a communications plan at some point in the future, an example of which I delivered to the superintendent today by email. The plan delivered was written by experts, and I think clear communication is needed to resolve the community's trust issues with us and the district itself. If parents and teachers both understand the process, how the process works, and what they can do if the communications they receive are not satisfactory, this will go a long way to bridging the current gaps between the board and the community. I have but one thing to ask of the public, who we serve. Please give us a chance to solve the problems that clearly exist in the system and give us the benefit of the doubt before judging us harshly or believing every rumor that comes along. As always, I'm always available to help you in any way I can. My contact and the rest of the board's contact information is public, and I am determined to make this situation better with the rest of the board. For the kids, for the parents, and the teachers. Thank you for listening to me, and I appreciate a moment to say a little something surrounding my appointment to the board, which I did not get to say before.
Thank you.
Are there any other concerns?
Yeah, I just want to say one thing. It was recommended to me I read the presentation on career pathways. And let me preface this with, I'm not opposed to career pathways. I know we've done some planning, a lot of planning, and I think we need to move forward with it as a district. I just have I don't know if it's a question or concern, but one of the things in the presentation said that 80% of all college students change their major within the first 2 or 3 years. I'm assuming that's not a typo. I just looked in the U.S. Department of Education, National Council for Educational Statistics, which is what we cite in the website, and it says here, within 3 years of initial enrollment, about 30% of undergraduates change their major. That's a pretty big discrepancy. So, as the curriculum committee, I didn't copy this. I'm not trying to blindside anybody. I think career pathways is the path we're going. I just don't want to move on false premises here. Danville moved away from career pathways in about 2013. I was a superintendent at Berwick. They moved away from it about 2005. There's a lot of good things to it, but I know that right now we're kind of in. It looks like we're doing it over a few years, and all I'm asking is, since we're in that phase and we're not quite sure of all the things we're doing, can we please at least consider providing some flexibility for the kids that are in the program? I think it's awfully difficult for a child at 14, 15 years old to choose a pathway. I don't know if that's the path we're going, or are we going to allow some flexibility to move between pathways? I don't have that in-depth knowledge of it, but that's the only thing I'm asking, is that because we're in that early stage. I know when Central did this, they were all in. I mean, they branded, they marketed, they came up with a sustainability plan, they advertised. It sounds like we're in, but we're not quite to that level. So please keep in mind that some of these kids may not be to that point, that they can really make that decision, and let's be careful how much we mandate at that age.
Yeah, we're not mandating that they stay within the track.
Okay, good.
Okay, the plan is that if they experience and don't like it, well, that's great when they thought that's what they wanted to do.
That was my
So
major concern.
Yeah, that's the direction that it's headed.
Because I think the electives are great. I really
Right,
like
and it
that.
gives them an
There's a lot
opportunity
of
to see
good
a bunch
to
of
it,
stuff.
but in terms of it being something that helps a child choose their college major, I think that's kind of a stretch at that age, so.
Yeah, well,
just
we're
my opinion.
honestly saying that might help them decide what they don't want to do quicker than it would be what they want to do. Okay, so.
Okay.
And I appreciate your comment.
Sure.
I think we still have, I'll let Dr. Bickert make some comments, but I think we agreed with 30%. I don't think 70% is our number.
I saw it, I thought maybe it was a typo, or, yeah.
It must be a typo because we said 30%. And like Dr. Boyle said, they're not stuck in one path. They can move around and just.
Yeah,
That-
sometimes
that's
I
the
read
bits-
too much. I saw that thing in the contract. It's not a major issue, but, you know, I see them, I'll point them out. Okay.
Any other concerns from the board? To open up for public comment? Your name, ma'am?
Sharon Rydell, 924. I don't need to do that now? Okay. I don't know if I can ask this now or ask if it's something that can be addressed. I don't know how to do this. But first I'll say, I appreciate my kids have a high school and they have great teachers. My daughters all play lacrosse. They started in 2nd grade. Over the summer, I had called the school to see if some of the girls could go lift that are in high school. And I was told that a coach had to be there. They didn't know the schedule. I could see it online. So they didn't get to go to the school. We had to pay for them to go train somewhere. And then I found out that the school pays a trainer and that football gets to use a trainer. Now I found out that trainers should be for other sports, I'm thinking. So there has to be some equality with the girls' sports and the boys' sports. I'm proud of the football team, but there's a lot of other sports, boys and girls. So things have to kind of be fair with that.
I know I have a questioning look on my face because it's the understanding the trainer is for all sports, regardless. But the trainer doesn't run the weight,
Well, I know over the summer,
weight room.
athletes just went in. They didn't have a coach with them all the time. And the girls wanted to go in as a group, and they weren't, couldn't. That I was told that they needed a coach. So we just paid to take our girls somewhere. Because lacrosse, Coach Klena does stuff with those girls all year long, starts with 2nd grade. She does not get paid for it. She builds confidence in those girls. The lacrosse team does exceptionally well. They win districts almost every year. I had my daughter at Rutgers for a camp, and people knew the name Danville. So people are noticing them. I know people say, oh, we don't play good teams, we don't do this. But, you know, my oldest daughter went to the top 8 in the state the year she graduated in 2014. So it's not, we have to build up the girls in this school just the same as the boys. I know the community doesn't come out for all the other sports. I wish they would. But I didn't know if I should come to an athletic committee to talk about that. I don't know who I talked to about that.
Mr. Vognatz is the chairperson, and you can talk to me.
Is that on the web? Because I've never seen the committee meetings until just now.
Yeah,
So
it's
is
on the
that-
website under the school board page.
Okay.
It's there. There is going to be help me, March 30th
March
now?
30th at 5:30, we just scheduled an athletic committee.
Yeah,
meeting.
that hasn't even been advertised yet. That was
Okay.
just right before this
Because I'm
meeting.
the booster president for lacrosse as well, and there's like 75 little girls. So to be able to tell them, hey, when you get bigger, you'll have all these opportunities is important as well. All right, that's all. I just wondered how to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Is there any other public comment? Okay. Like to get a motion to adjourn?
A motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Thank you. Ayes have it.